Hi, welcome back. As we have discussed earlier, the example is going to be a research to investigate safe level of optimism among group of people. Say the researcher have managed to define space of variables as we always have done earlier before. And let's say, for example, he grouped those variables into two categories: demographic variables, such as the age, maybe the marital status, and etc. And then the affecting variables, or let's call them the technical variables. And technical variables are actually the main focus, of course, of capturing the basic of the research question. So down here, like say the optimism, the mastery, the positive effect, etc. Now, I'm not going to go through how those variables been defined because that was the main subject in the previous book. But the major idea is how we're gonna actually quantify optimism or mastery. It's gonna be happening based on the instrument design. Now, you can choose any type of instrument design or technique that we've learned about before, but the basic idea is by defining number of statements. As we said, we get like statement 1, statement 2, and then you're going to scale those statements on a Likert, for example, a scale of from 1 to 5. And then you're going to ask each subject to scale the statements, and finally you're going to have the total score of this dichotomous or this scale. Now, if you look carefully to the example here, you've got 6 actually statements. Here there are 6 statements, and the scale seems to be from 1 to 5. And of course, if the subject have come to score each one of those 6 statements as 1, 1, 1, you will get lower score of 6 as a total. Otherwise, if you score all of them as 5, then you've got 30. But the most important part, when it comes to reliability and consistency, we said that some of statements have to be reversed. For example, if you expect him to score this 5, you expect him to score the other statements 1. That's why you could see here I have already showed you how to make the reverse for certain items concerning this scale or dichotomy. We need to reverse item 2, 4, and 6. Now, this page that I'm showing you actually is the last page of the code book, as we have earlier discussed also about preparing the code book. Now, let me show you actually the other details of this code book. So this is the sample of the questionnaire. Maybe this page you consider to be all the information you need about the demographic type of variables, such as the gender, the age, maybe the marital status, etc. You've got like 7 questions accounting for all the information I need from X1 all the way, as you can see, to X7, actually my demographic type of variables, right? So here is the second page to explore, let's say, the first type of dichotomous of optimism. So to capture optimism, we have seen earlier, I have defined 6 statements and on scale of 1 to 5, as we seen earlier. If the subject have come to answer all of them 1, the range will be 6, and if he has come to score them all 5, is going to be 30. This is accounting these 6 statements, accounting for the optimism. Let me show you again from 1 to 7, as we saw, these are my demographic variable. Now X8 all the way to 13, these following variables are accounting for these 6 statements. And actually what we want to do after we capture their scales, we have to sum them up into total score for optimism. That's exactly what we have seen earlier on. So I hope the idea of the code book, it's quite practically clear to you. And it's a very, very important to have such a code book. So in order to make sure the guidelines are quite clear, as you are done and you administer this instrument to the subject, the outcome of that could be automatically in a format of a spreadsheet by having this data set. So basically, whatever we saw in the code book, it's just right in front of us. Say, for example, you've got the ID for the number of participants, 60 of them. But you get the gender, the age, the marital status, if you have children, education, source. Now, for example, let's say I've got across this, and I know this indicating whether you are a smoker or not. But let's say, for example, I didn't really remember what does the name of this variable indicating. That's why the codebook will help me to figure out what does that exactly mean. So if I head back to my codebook, you could see I have defined every variable name with full details and what it seems to be as entered as abbreviation in the statistical software. So for example, here is the variable children, but I will going to write it as a child variable name. And more important, next to it is the coding instruction. So for example, here, if you've got a gender, if the type is 1 indicating males, 2 females, age are in years, marital status 1 indicates single, 2 a steady relationship, 3 living with partners, etc. Number of children could be 1 or no as categorical, and then highest education with these 6 different nominal levels. Then you get major source of income. But look at smoking, for example, yes and no. But here's the variable that I have forgotten what does that indicating. And if I'm reading from my codebook, I could see easily indicate the cigarettes smoked per week. So it's a numerical number indicating number total of cigarettes. And the rest, it goes as it is. So you, for example, you could see that the optimism scale from 1 to 6, all these opt 1 to opt 6 are indicating to this scale, mastery scale, or mass 1 to mass 7, etc. And of course, they are a scalar level from 1 to 5 for the optimism, 1 to 4 for the mastery, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, for example, for the life satisfaction level, etc. Okay, so heading back again, we know how to tandem between the codebook and the actual data set. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 indicating the optimism, then the mastery should be 7, and then the rest. The first thing you want to check out is the missing data. Obviously, as I said before, you might get some missing data. Now, to handle missing data, again, depends on the type of the data set. If your data set about machinery, for example, or quality insurance control or manufacturer, different from having such a data set concerning social science, because you cannot just easily assuming a numerical number for a survey that the answer on behalf of the participant. So sometimes you might need even to eliminate the entire case from the data set, because if you assume an answer on behalf of the subject, then you can dump the actual data. But if it's a machine reading, it's easy to anticipate kind of number placed in the missing values. But I'm going to share with you there are many different techniques to handle the missing data. The easiest one is just to eliminate the entire subject. But this is not going to be a good practice, in my opinion, every time. If you have a chance to visit back the subject by code, since you know the code, and try to ask them or prompt them to visit the questionnaire and complete the missing values, will be better. Otherwise, maybe I could suggest depends on the type of a variable and the sensitivity of the variable. So for example, now you could see that some of the participants didn't really provide me with the exact source. Now, if you ask my opinion, I'm not going to really answer on behalf of this participant what is the type of source, because it's a very much sensitive. But if I would have an age is missing in here, perhaps I can tolerate by calculating the average age for all the participants, and whatever is missing value, I'm gonna replace it with the average age for all the participants. Now, when it comes to the answers of the questionnaire or the survey, you could capture again the average answers for all the participant, and maybe you fill that with that average answer. But once again, it's a kind of technical opinion. It depends on what you prefer. Personally, if there is a chance for me, absolutely I would visit back the source or the subject and ask them or prompt them to actually fill the missing data. If my data set concerning something not related to with such kind of research, absolutely I would use the mathematical technique by replacing and anticipating the answers. But when it comes to human subject, you're going to be really very much carefully selecting the right approach. Now, next thing what we want to do, capture the total score, for example, like say for optimism. I'm going to work on one scale, and that's optimism, but it's the same idea will be applicable for the rest. We'll see you then.